Sonia here with my intuitive tip of the week. And this week, I want to talk to you about no longer being spiritual. Something that I find so much in our community are so many people who are trying so hard to be spiritual. But the funny thing is that in order to be spiritual, it's really just another code word for special. And special is where we not only disconnect from our intuition, from each other, but actually is just our ego masquerading as spirit, or even our high intellect masquerading as our spirit. And the funny thing is, like, once you're spiritual, once you're different, once you separate yourself out from others, that is a huge red flag of our egos. Our egos. A healthy ego is a great thing. It helps to define us from the world. You need an ego. We're not going to kill your ego. We're not going to get rid of your ego. If you didn't have an ego, you wouldn't be able to differentiate yourself from the speeding bus that's coming down the street. But a healthy ego is in support not only to our spirit, to our intuition, but to connection. And anything that puts up walls or barriers between us and others, puts up me against you, and you scare me, you're different than me, you're not as spiritual as I am, that is a code word for being different. That is our code word for being in our egos and not actually in the place of presence where we're able to connect. See, I've grown up in this world, and it is my biggest pet peeve when people try and be too spiritual. First of all, the first thing that I see is that it ups the ante over and over and over and over and over again. And you're trying to keep topping your spiritual messages or guides or connections or whatever. Oftentimes people are like, and then I saw blah, 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 Mother Mary walk into the room. I'm like, did you really see Mother Mary walk into the room? Because a lot of times that to me is just code for needing to be different, special, and it triggers other people too. The thing that I find so challenging also is that when connecting to our intuition, connecting to spirit, connecting to other people, connecting to the presence of the moment, when you make your connection with your own spirit or the universe so special, so Elvis Presley descending from above in a golden jumpsuit, that makes other people feel like they aren't as connected. Now, you can have your big ahas or your big moments or those big places of connection. But a lot of times, for me, that's just code for wanting to be special and wanting to be validated. So even this past summer, I was with these two people. One of them was supposedly a very conscious person. She did all of these different Vipassana silent 10-day meditation retreats, really said that spirituality was at the heart and center of her life. For me, I was like, awesome, cool. Then we can have a lot of interesting things to nerd out about. I love connection. I love giving people tools. I love learning from other people of the ways that they connect to their support systems. It was her and her boyfriend, this guy who was also a very spiritual person, who was a digital nomad and traveled around the world, but where connection and spirituality were really at the heart of his business and who he was. So I'm in the car with these two people for 8 hours, supposedly very spiritual people, very connected people. These two people were so involved in themselves and their spirituality and their thing that they didn't ask me a single question for 8 hours. It was hilarious. I found it super funny because I was just like, this is the opposite of spirituality, or this is spirituality. It was just this whole conversation about themselves and their tools and books and whatever, all the ways that they validated being spiritual or more spiritual than me, which whatever. Because the thing is our connection to spirit, our connection to our own spirituality is a personal thing. And the hallmarks for me of what is really a spirited life, not a spiritual life, are joy, imagination, curiosity, availability, and connecting to other people that are around you. It's being able to see past their egos and starting to appreciate their spirit. And one thing that I grew up with my mom, Sonia Chocat, which I love, is that you can love somebody's spirit, but you don't have to necessarily love their barking dog. You don't have to love their ego. And for me, with these two people, it was like, I love their spirit and I could appreciate what it was that they were doing. But they just, as we would say, as my godmother Raluca has said, which I love so much, it wasn't for me. Because the thing was after being connected to them, they made me feel really self-conscious and even in some ways criticized because and not interested or not that interesting. And for me, those are big hallmarks. When you're with somebody who's actually genuinely available and connected to their heart space, that for me is somebody who is connected to spirit. You know, spirit is fun and play and open-heartedness and tenderness and curiosity. And those are tools that are accessible to everyone. And it takes a lot of different sort of ways that they connect. Some people, it's through different channels like I have, whether it's meditation or intuition. But other people, it's just like slow, everyday showing up devotional practices. And no matter what floats your boat, no matter what works for you, what gives you that sense of being connected is the only thing that's actually important. My mom always said, don't be special, be spatial. And that means by creating space around us. Anytime that we have to be too special or have to be noted or have to be different than other people, that is our barking dog. That is the voice of our ego. And it's also a turnoff because it's actually kind of boring. The funny thing is I found the most spiritual people are people who don't have a sense of humor, or I find it really hard to laugh at themselves. And for me, one thing that I've learned is laughter is a language of God. It infuses us with our ability to connect. It infuses us with our joy. And for me, that's the language of spirit. So it's not about whether or not you have your practice, but really this thing of make sure that your brand and your way to connect doesn't make you different or separate than other people. Don't make yourself better than others, even if you do have a challenging time with people's egos. You know, the thing is we're all on our own individual journeys and we have to respect them even if they're different than ours. And it's not about not speaking up or trying to give people tools, but a lot of times we have to remember that we don't know. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know what their stories or histories are. And a lot of times if we decide that we know best for other people because we have the answer, it first of all doesn't allow people to trust themselves and is also just kind of a turnoff. Find the tools and the things that work for you. Find the things that resonate for you and be inclusive and be curious. For me, that's at the heart of what it is that we do. Because in order to connect to the y-axis, to the universe, to our guides, to our angels, to our support systems, to the divine, we first have to connect here. And that also means that we have to have an ability to connect to other people. But first, being connected to our own spirit, our own sense of self, our own sense of availability. Because anchored in here, then we can connect to other people in our bodies. And also we can start to connect to our wonderful support systems. And also leading by example. Having a fun spirited life, having a fun life that is joyful and supportive to ourselves first and foremost, and to other people is what's inviting. And as we try and spread light in the world, the best thing to do is to be your own bright light, because that is the most inviting and fun. So I'm inviting you to have to put down the mantle of having to be spiritual because it's exhausting. And instead, be spatial and live spirited and find those things that bring you joy and include other people. Because for me, laughter is the language of God. Laughter is our first language and it's a universal language. And the more that we can laugh and play and invite people to do the same, the more that we find where we're more and more alike than we are different. And anything that's serious, if we can infuse some humor into it, it brings some levity. My Nana, my mom's mom, always said, the situation is always critical, but never serious. And it was always a good reminder to not take ourselves, our stories, who we are too seriously, that we can laugh and have humor and joy. and that not only is our language of God, but our direct connection back to our guides, back to our intuition, back to the divine. So I hope that you enjoyed this message this week. I'm sending you all my love. And if you haven't already, sign up for my newsletter at soniatully.com and get your free spiritual lesson delivered right to your inbox. And if you need some support, whether it's getting clear on your soul purpose or maybe wanting to connect better to your own intuition, I encourage you to book a discovery call with me. It's a free 15-minute call, and we can see if working together would be a good fit. And no matter what, that means I get to talk to you, which I love. Sending you all my love. Bye.